Life's a journey. The roads can be long, winding, providing little shade. And just when you think you have the path all figured out, just when you get to the top, here comes a fork in the road. You know you can't go back, so you have to choose.
No matter what path I choose to walk, no matter which direction I go, it's always time to go indie now.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to our show. You know, we're going to be talking in this episode about journeys, what it takes to become an artist. Where do we find that passion, and how do we hone it? How do we make it so that we're doing something that we love, and in the pursuit of doing something that we love, making our lives better by doing that, you know? And the journeys that one takes to get to that path. Sometimes it's a longer path, sometimes it's a shorter path, and sometimes it's a path that's just starting. And sometimes you reach an impasse, a fork in the road, if you will, and you have to make a decision. We're also going to talk about what motivates us, inspires us. We're going to piggyback on the awesome panel discussion we had earlier this month about that motivation and inspiration. But also, we're taking a journey with this show. And I really appreciate that you're all taking this journey with us. And that's why I constantly am tweaking it, trying to make it just that much better. I removed the bulletin board segment from our show, realizing that really a lot of us don't watch the show at the time when you should be paying attention to the bulletin board, because it has deadlines, and deadlines don't really work for a show like this because a lot of us are watching it much later after the date it was posted. So I made that tweak already, but I do have some things in store. We have some new segments this month, and we're going to continue to grow. So it's going to be awesome. And we're going to begin this episode's journey with filmmaker Andy Lefton. Now, Andy is an animator by trade, but he has a degree in media production. He went to school for media production, and he just fell in love with the animation field and kind of followed that journey. He went on his path, and now he's veered off into his own independent path, and he's finding some twists and turns along the way. We talk about his love for live action films along with animation, and how he may want to pursue that at some point in his life. So his journey is all kinds of twists and turns, and it's very interesting. Started this love of animation for you?
Well, I'm kind of afraid to answer that because it's so cliche, but to be totally honest with you, my dad took me to see Star Wars in '77 when we lived out in California. And I'm, to some degree, I can really blame that for being a catalyst for this, because it stuck with me just like it stuck with everybody else. You know, you see that film as a kid and you're just like, wow. So I really got into film, basically kind of after that point. And so it's kind of a long story, but in a nutshell, kind of fast forwarding through life. I wanted to get into school. I wanted to really kind of focus on, special effects, and where I was living at the time, being in my late teens, early 20s, there wasn't really anything offered. Mm-hmm. With special effects or animation, there really wasn't a curriculum. And so I actually, long story short, I relocated from Colorado to Minnesota. For one, I had a couple friends here, and two, I did realize that around 99, 2000, they did have a animation curriculum there. Not so much VFX, but, just, hey, we have the software, we'll show you how to teach it, et cetera, et cetera. So that just grabbed my attention. And it turned out to be kind of, it nailed it for me. I'm like, this is what I want to do, and so that was kind of it for me.
You've worked steadily in this business for a while and in various production facilities. I mean, what made you decide it's time to go out on my own?
There's kind of many areas to that I can discuss, but again, in a nutshell, I think one thing that I really almost require with my production, my pipeline, I guess you can say, my workflow, is I really like to have my hand in the creative pot. Mm-hmm. I'm not so much of a person where it's, I've been in those situations where you're hired on at a studio or facility and you're kind of put into an assembly line kind of environment where it's like, okay, this is your task. Mm-hmm. I'm very, I like challenging myself and I like challenges. So I don't like feeling claustrophobic is what I'm trying to say. So I like to branch out. I like to know that I have creative control over what I'm doing. And so, it took me a while really to get to this point. You just can't say you're going to be a freelancer. It took me years to really build my network and to build where I'm at right now. And so, it takes a while, but ultimately I'm happy, and I think that's kind of my direction, is to kind of be in a more producer director role eventually.
What's a pet peeve of yours, or something that you think gets overlooked a lot so often in animation? I'm an advocate for always growing. Uh-huh. And always challenging yourself. And I don't know if it's so much a pet peeve, but people that try to shortcut, people that just kind of be like, maybe it's a lazy thing, or maybe it's I really don't know, and I don't want to step on any toes, but when people just kind of focus on one thing and be like, this is as far as I can go, this is just what I want to do, it's a little too much. And it's like, well, if you're passionate about something and if you have the will to do it, you should definitely do it. Script writing is so formatted and follows strict guidelines. I would imagine animation has the same idiom. So how do you put your own spin on that? How do you stay with how do you put your own style within staying within the boundaries of following the rules, or is it a matter of you need to not follow the rules?
Man, I have a degree basically in media production, and it's everything. It's audio, video production, editing, screenwriting, scripting, the whole shebang. And so I have a little bit of training. Just it's basic knowledge of this stuff, And so for me, I try to follow the protocols, and kind of streamline like you're supposed to, but for me, man, and I think a lot of people can understand this as well, that everything starts, on a cocktail napkin or, a scratch piece of paper where you write down an idea. And for Two Worlds, that's what it was for me. It was a scratch piece of paper, and it was just drawing out little square frames, and it was drawing thumbnails inside of that. And that just grew into an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper with storyboards. And that was it. I mean, the film doesn't really have any dialogue. Right. Everything is based off kind of facial expressions, which was a challenge on its own. But
especially for robots, right?
Oh man, totally, dude. And so I mean, I had a lot of reference, like people be like, oh, this is so much like WALL-E. And it's like it is kind of WALL-E to some effect, because Pixar's WALL-E was, it relied on facial expressions. But one thing I do want to clarify is that this story was definitely written before WALL-E. So hi Pixar, if you need an extra animator, I'm here.
Somebody asked me to describe it, and that's funny you should mention Wally, because I said it's Wally stranded on Tatooine is what I said.
It totally is, dude.
Describe it.
It totally is. And a lot of people are using the Star Wars reference, and to me that's great. To me it's a compliment. Yeah. And I'm the first to be like, no, that totally was not the case. But the inner child in me is like, come on, dude, that's the case.
When you first started, what was the thing that surprised you the most about doing animation?
My learning curve. I have this tendency to, and I think everybody has this, and this is not a weakness, but sometimes I'm just impatient. And I remember getting into the industry, and I was like, I want to learn everything.
Yeah.
Right? Plug me into the matrix. I want to learn everything right now. And it was that motivation and gumption that I have to really, really learn. And I get frustrated, like, how come I'm not understanding this right now? So I think that was the biggest down. I don't think it's a downfall. I just think it was something that you learn as a person.
Sure.
Be patient. Because you will learn if you put your nose to the grindstone, you can do anything.
What does the term indie mean to you?
DIY. And again, I'm totally not stepping on any toes here, but the whole Two Worlds process, no Kickstarter, no GoFundMe, like none of that. And that's just me as a person. I am so into the DIY ethic. I'm like, if you want something done, you have to do it yourself. And that's not for everything, because I do, I do believe in a collaborative environment. I do believe working in a team. But for Two Worlds, I did approach a good handful of studios, and I did approach a good handful of artists, and it just didn't work out. And so that's when I was just like, I have to do it myself. And because if you learn that ethic, and you're gonna go places. I'm still waiting, but I still wholeheartedly believe in that, because man, honestly, if it wasn't for Two Worlds, it's like it's really helped me.
This is a short film. So was there ever a thought of tackling a feature, or is there a thought to make this into a feature at some point?
Yeah. And it was one of those things where, the production of this short film, Two Worlds, took a long time for me, because obviously, I'm working full time. I have other obligations in life, and anybody else has done a short film, animation or not, knows the grueling and daunting task it can be. And when the film was finished and after I had a chance to breathe, I kind of thought to myself, this is something cool. This is something good. And I love the characters, and they're basically a part of my family, because they've been with me since its inception, so about 15 years now. Wow. Since the beginning, yeah. And so, I thought about a feature film at some point, or working on a feature, or somehow expanding that universe of these characters. Absolutely would love to do that.
What's your favorite part? What's your favorite step in the animating process?
I think the final product. I think when you wipe away the tears and you wipe away the sweat, and you kind of step back and you look at it and you're like, damn. Wow, this actually looks really cool. I mean, there are plenty of times, and I'll be honest, that you feel like you just want to throw in the towel, and you're like, this is crazy. And I did that with Two Worlds. There were so many times that I had to shelve it because I just didn't have time. And then I was able to pull it back, take a break, look at it again, and be like, no, man, this is totally worth it. I need to pursue it. And I did. It was daunting, but it was very much well worth it.
My many thanks to Mr. Andy Lefton for that great interview. You definitely need to go check out his movie, Two Worlds. It's an artistic achievement, to say the least. It's only 8 minutes long. It won't take up too much of your time. So if you get a break, go and check it out. Go to GoIndieNow.com. That's where we have all the links to all of our interviews, all of our panelists, all of our contributors. We have their website links, where you can find their art. You know, if it's through Amazon, we have Amazon buy links that go directly to the product, and people are selling books, music, films, whatever it might be. Definitely take the time to check that out. While you're there, go to all of their social media links, which we also have up on our website at GoIndieNow.com. Like and follow all of these artists. Up next is contributor Jin Okubo with another great indie book review for you this month. And also, I want to mention that he has re-released a book of his own called Brotherhood. He's done a lot of work on it, and this fantasy series is near and dear to his heart. Definitely want to go check that out. Go to our website, GoIndieNow.com, and get the link. And check out all his other books while you're there, because he writes romance like nobody else. It's a very interesting take on the genre. And he's also got the first book to the fantasy series. We also have a little promo at the end of this book review for a contest that will be running till the end of December. It's called Tweet Stakes, and the details and the prizes that we're going to be offering will be revealed here in the next coming weeks. So I'll do a video about that. We'll also have a web page on our website for that, so you can read all the rules and everything and how you qualify and how you get involved in it. In the last live panel discussion show we'll be doing for 2016 in December, I will take this hat and I will draw a name live for the winner of our Tweet Stakes test. Look forward to telling you more about it and having you all be involved. All right, I'll be right back.
This is Jin Okubo for GoIndieNow. I'm the author of Love. I'm the author of Kaoru in Love's Shadow. I'm also the author of Memories, a fantasy series, and just released last week, Brotherhood. You can find me on Amazon. And today's book is interesting because it's how to be an author, what the struggles of the craft and how we look ourselves going through what we're going to be writing until we get to our finished product. And with that, I want to just give you one book. There are many out there, tutorials and stuff on how to be a writer, what to do, what not to do, and yeah, you're going to learn how to write, but you're not going to learn about the struggles of what an actual writer goes through. And that's where I give you today. Today's book is Another Attempt at Being an Author by M.L. Dominic. I recommend this book. It's short, it's quick, and it's free right now on Amazon. This book is written in such a unique way that I guarantee you're going to have fun as you read it. You're going to learn a lot about what goes on in an author's head. You're going to learn a lot about what goes on into being an author. Please enjoy.
Remember how I mentioned at the beginning of the show that we'd be looking at some journeys that are just beginning. And that is the case for Madelyn Victoria. Now, while she's been singing since she's been very little, she is really just getting going, tapping into the potential that she has, doing it the indie way. It's really cool. She's a lot of fun. Enjoy.
It's Friday night. Looking for a good time.
So you were born to be a country star. And for most people, that would be almost cliche. But for you, it's kind of literal. Tell everybody that story.
Yes, of course. You know, my mom, even before I was even born, my mom would put headphones over her tummy. And so I was always listening to music, all kinds of music. But when I was actually, being delivered in the delivery room, my mother's obstetrician, or my obstetrician, whatever, he country music playing in the operating room. So, as he was delivering me, I was literally, like you said, literally listening to country music, being influenced by it from the beginning.
That's such a great story. You started singing, and then you kind of honed the craft, and you were competing in talent competitions and pageants and things of that nature. So what's one tip for somebody who goes that route?
Use the tools around you. At a young age, I learned on my own the national anthem with my mom helping me a little bit. And, learning the national anthem, learning some of your favorite songs through karaoke music at first, or whatever, little tracks you got going on, picking up the guitar, things like that start you off, and looking around to see what's going on locally, look in your newspapers, look online, see what talent competitions are going on, see what talent searches are in your area. And that's exactly what I was doing. And then little by little, people are going to start letting you know, once they see what you're doing and what your passion is. They're going to start letting you know, like, oh, hey, I heard something, on the radio, or I heard, I read this on the website, you should do it. So it all just kind of comes together once you start to recognize what you're doing, and to really love what you're doing.
You often list like artists like George Strait, Alan Jackson, and you actually had the privilege of playing with the Charlie Daniels Band. I mean, these are bands that are considered in country music to be more traditional in style. And country music's kind of evolved from that, and kind of plays with more non-traditional sensibilities. So what's one tradition you'd like to see make a comeback?
Let's see, definitely a lot more steel guitar and fiddle in the songs. Like, I feel like, when you hear the music, of course I care a lot about lyrics. I care a lot about that. But for me, growing up, the music and the musicality of a song, and what you hear in that, that's my favorite thing. I will never not have steel guitar and fiddle in my music. Or, hearing a harmonica a little bit more rootsy, kind of holding on to that, and I feel like, we can experiment and we can have fun and keep up with but you gotta remember where you always came from. Everyone always says that. Everyone always says, whether your career you have or whatever you're doing, they always say that saying has been around forever. Always remember where you came from. So there's a reason for that, I feel, and it also, intertwines with the music. Never forget where you came from in music, in country music. And that's what I personally, no matter what, and I hope to see a lot more of that. And there are a lot of great traditionalists out there that I feel like, it'll come around again.
I have a feeling I know the answer to this question, but is there a dream venue for you? You're relatively new to the traveling aspect of things, so I'm sure there's a lot of them, but is there one in particular that you're really looking forward to playing one day?
I could say yes, definitely. I dream about these venues, but I want to be able to say that at a point in my career, I'm packing the house, or it's a sold out show, and I hope to have a sold out show at Green Hall here in Texas. That's where George Strait, started playing off, and then of course the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville, Tennessee. That's a place where I would, all my influences besides, here in Texas, all the Texas guys, like, of course, George Strait came from Texas. Willie Nelson, he's made the Texas music scene here, and I love what we got going on here. But going back to where it all started, the Grand Ole Opry, and legends like Johnny Cash is, he was a big rebel, but he had his, I say, our demons or whatever, and so he did his thing there, and he was banned for a little bit, but that's the history of it, and that's what music is about. And so I feel like, man, Johnny Cash is a big influence in songwriting for me, and so being on the same stage as those legends, the Grand Ole Opry, of course, that's the dream of every country music singer.
Yeah, so you do play a lot locally, though. You've mastered, I was on your website. You got like 20 gigs coming up. I mean, it's crazy. So I would imagine you see a lot of familiar faces at these events because they are so local. But how do you plan to mix it up with a set list? Do you guys sit aside and say, okay, well, we played here last night, which is about 20 miles from here. Maybe we should mix it up a little bit. Do you guys do that, or do you just stay true to playing one set list and just go through the motions?
Yeah, it changes. It depends, like you said, how far away these venues are from each other, the type of, it's funny, sometimes even like, they could be 20, 30, 40 miles apart and, they're very different. It's a very different atmosphere, very different of what they want to do, whether they just want to sit and listen or they want to dance. Mainly they want to dance. And it's funny, there's these two towns, there's the middle of out in the sticks, and basically they like that's kind of close to where I live, and they kind of like they want to dance, and so I play a lot of the 90s country. If there's something today going on, I'll play a cover that's a good dancing song. And even up down the road in McAllen, Texas, they like a little bit more of the 80s country. So and it's funny, and in San Antonio, I played at bars, and that's a little bit more of where I could acoustic sets, and that's totally different too. Sometimes I'll throw in there something that's a little bit more danceable and a little bit more dance hall sounding, but then again, the sit down, more singer songwriter acoustic things going on with my set list. And then there's my originals, which a lot of people don't know yet, but I'm getting them used to it, and so I switch it up every now and then, and I could tell with the reaction of the crowd whether they want to hear one or not. I talk to them, get to know them. So yeah, I change it up a lot.
Do you change it up on the fly? So you just mentioned that some places don't dance. So if you had a dance set, do you make adjustments as the set is going on sometimes?
Yeah, sometimes I'll if it depends on because I have my band, and it depends on what players, like sometimes one member can't make it, or I have to get in a fill in, or a filler, and that's the thing, I don't have a real set band just yet, so I always have to have these. And that's okay, because back home I have so many musician friends and so many people that play with me that know my music, so it feels like I have just like so many band members. I have so many band members. So but it depends on who's playing with me. Depends on usually if it's this one set, one set of band members that I have that know all of my, like, exactly every song, we do change it up. We like to, like, okay, even if they are dancing, we're like, oh, they like this kind of style of dancing music, so then we're gonna play another one similar to it. And yeah, and it's really cool, man, when they dance to original songs. I guess that's my whole goal, if I can of venues to play at. Or first of all, the concerts. I love the concerts, like the 45 to an hour and 30 sets, and then the dance halls. That's, I gotta say, when I play my original music, and I see them dance to it, because they don't know it and they still want to get up and dance. It's pretty cool.
What's it like having your brother be along on this journey with you?
It's great, and then of course it's a brother sister thing, so we gotta get over, we gotta, like, not show on stage. I have a big smile, and if he's annoying me for some reason, I have to, like, just tell him something between my teeth, like, you better stop it. Anyway, it's a blessing. It's a blessing to have, and like, you do always have to think about the safety of things, and you're playing at bars, and you're playing for drunk people, and so men might be getting a little fresh or whatever, and I'm not even, I am good, because I know I've got my 6'3" brother on stage with me, and I feel a lot more safe with that.
Awesome.
And just, yeah, and he's so talented too. He actually recently has started co-writing with me, and his mind, he has such a producer mind, and helping me whenever I can't, when I'm stuck on something. So that's it's great to have him there. It's just meant to be.
What aspect of the music business do you like?
Let's see. I've never been asked that, but I like, yeah. Let me think about it for a little bit. But I mean, everything in general. I like to take, for example, I mean, I like everything. I like to take care of everything. I like to oversee everything. I like to make sure everything's going on. And I'm starting to, little by little, see how a record label works. And so I guess if you want to say the business and the industry and whatnot, I like the way a label functions when it's going the right way. And I like the way right now, I've got my publicist and my promoter, Mr. Michael Stover, and we're working together. So I've got that covered, and now I'm working on because I do my own bookings right now. Now you got to get a booking agent, and that'll little by little you're putting the puzzle together of a record label. And so I love to see that how it's working, and I feel like that's that's probably going to be my in the end result. I'll be working my own label, and then eventually, man, I love the fact that I can look for talent one day too, and get on my label. And I worked so hard to get up here at some point, and so I love that. I love the way the record label functions.
Tell me what the term indie means to you.
For me, indie is independent. I'm an independent artist. It's kind of weird. I kind of want to be mainstream as an independent artist, get out to, because mainstream can mean two different things. It can mean the style of the music, or it can actually literally mean the business part of it. And mainstream meaning you're on every single radio station here in the US or worldwide or whatever, and you're up there, you're mainstream. And so do that, as an indie artist, or as an independent artist, and that's with my own label, with my own thing. And so that's what I want to kind of do. I want to reach out.
The night is young and so are we. Let's go down these back roads, get loose and wild and free. I got the bottle and you got the keys. Turn on to Wayland, straight cash, and Johnny.
Like, country music from the beginning, being here in Texas. Also, the Tejano music that we have here, the Spanish music. I really, take hold of that. My grandparents' music. It's really cool. I like to call myself a Texan. And I don't know. I just love growing up here. The scenery, it's like a whole, like literally, I've been traveling Texas for such a long time. It's like a whole nother country, and there's so many and so many different. We've got the flat where I'm from in South Texas. We've got such like flat land and a lot of farmland, a lot of crops. Mm-hmm. Go up north, it's a little bit more hilly. Get into the hill country, and then you got the desert, and you got, it's just so crazy and awesome. And all of the influences and ties into my music and all, and everything that I do, and the people I meet too, there's pros and cons to everywhere and anything, but a lot more pros here in Texas, and I love it.
My many thanks to Madelyn Victoria for that great interview. Such a talent. She's out there making it work and getting her name out there. So go and spend some time with Madelyn Victoria. All right. I will be right back.
Daddy don't understand that it's rough out there to get your fair share. Back in a sweat on the edge of nowhere, finding my place, using my mind. Everything is going to wrong. Why? 'Cause it's rough out there. Yeah, it's rough out there. Gotta be tough out there. Child has more to say than a blind man can take away. How much does she have to pay to live in the present day? 'Cause it's rough out there. Get your fair share, taking a ride to the edge of nowhere, falling in space, calling in right. Everything is going to unwind. out there. Yeah, it's rough out there. You gotta be tough out there. It's not the things you say that will make me feel better. Why don't you write me a letter? We're in this all the way. No matter what the weather, we should still be together. Mama don't understand. Daddy don't understand. This is rough out there. Sometimes it's rough out there. Child has more to say. The things you say. Than a blind man can take away. It's all the way. It's rough out there. Summertime's tough out there. Sometimes it's rough out there.
A couple weekends ago, I had the distinct pleasure of being a panelist and not the host of one of our live panel discussions. And I was invited to do so by the person hosting, Miss Marnie Kate. Marnie is a friend of mine and a frequent contributor to GoIndieNow. She's been there from the beginning, and she had this great topic and this great discussion, and she had some people that she really wanted to involve in the discussion. It was cool to have some new, fresh faces on our panels as well, and hopefully people that you'll see more of as as we do these shows, because they were all wonderful. This was a great panel. It was just a great discussion, and I definitely recommend you go check it out on our YouTube channel. This is a little snippet of what we did on that Saturday afternoon. And right after that comes another discussion that I had with just Marnie and myself about a movie. We're doing movie reviews, and I actually will be having a contributor, Mr. Jason Greensides, who will be doing these movie reviews for us monthly, just like Jin Okubo does the book reviews.
Hi everyone, welcome to GoIndieNow. Today's panel is going to be talking about motivation. What motivates us to keep writing, inspiration, and you'll learn a little bit more about my fabulous panel. Today I have...
Everyone, I'm Karina Cantus. Some people call me Karina Katniss. Mwah. I'm an author of 8 books. I am also a VA, a narrator. I'm a book trailer designer, and I'm also the promotion and marketing manager for TSK publication.
Joe Compton. I am the author of Amongst the Killing, and obviously owner of this wonderful adventure called GoIndieNow.
Christy Stratus, and I'm the author of Anatomy of a Darkened Heart. Right here. This is a dark psychological historical fiction. My next book, Lock and Key, is going to come out in the fall, and I'm also the owner of Proof Positive, which is an editing company.
My name is Ellie Fitzpatrick, or you can call me Lindsay. I'm the author of The Running Game, and I'm an editor, and this is my first panel.
I'm C.L. Schneider, or you can call me Cindy, or Cynthia, or C, or whatever you feel like. I'm the author of the Crown of Stones trilogy. I write epic and urban fantasy for adults.
My name is Jason Greensides, author of The Distant Sound of Violence, an epic contemporary novel about bad decisions and love gone wrong.
J.M. Norfolk. My real name is Julie. I have 10 different books out there. I write in an array of genres, but mostly in young adult.
Marnie Cady, young adult author of Remember and Expedition to Protectors of Elemental Magic. I'm just finishing up my 3rd book, and I've dabbled a little bit into romance now, so we're going to see a little bit different side for me. What motivates you to keep writing?
So really, and sort of the themes that I really that I need to express is, dealing with life and relationships and trying to fit into society and existence and all that. So it's just something I have to do.
I definitely get into a pretty bad mood if I don't write often enough, which is at least once a week. So going off what you're saying, I definitely feel that if I wait too long between times, I start to get I feel kind of what am I doing with my life? Even though I have a full-time job and other things to do, I still feel I'm not that happy, or I get really moody and stuff like that. And so I sort of have to write, but at the same time I love it. And it is the best way to express myself for sure.
I think it's very therapeutic, but I think it also falls into the realm of creative expression. A lot of people find different things that they do for outlet. And, some people are painters. Well, I look at writing as though it's painting with words.
I've wanted this for so long. Since I was 16, I wanted to be a published author. I wanted a career in writing, and I put it on the back burner for life, for marriage, career, kids, and I made that choice. I felt at the time that if I didn't have hours to devote to a writing career, why bother? It was a stupid thing, but that's what I thought. And so this was my dream, and so literally it's my dream come true.
Always learning. You'll never stop learning.
The thing you have to remember is we're not competing with each other. You don't finish a book and go, oh, I'm never going to read anything like it in that genre again. You want to read more like it. On Amazon, there's a search facility where you can look and see authors like you. I know my book's always alongside D.M. Kane, who's an author we all know, and it's fantastic when you see, oh, somebody's reading my book and they're reading her book. Same with you, Marnie. The same publishers, we all work together. There isn't a competitive element that certain people would have you believe that there is.
I think that also kind of leads into the getting motivated and what inspires you. Sharing a story idea with some of my friends. that helps get the juices flowing for all of us, whether they're writing the story or I am, or it gets you thinking and gets you inspired. But for me, I've always said the greatest part of publishing is the people that I've met.
I definitely think it's about loving it, and I always say, don't write a book just to fit into a genre that's popular right now, or just to throw something out there, because people see that when they read it. Like, they get that, and it just doesn't come out the same way as if you're really passionate about what you're writing.
Time to say goodbye. I know, it's been super fun.
Talk to me about your experience with the panel. What did you like doing about it? Tell people why you wanted to do it too. I think that's really an interesting idea.
Well, the panel on motivation was sort of selfish. I mean, every indie author, every person, it's not just being an author, every person every once in a while needs to be reminded that whatever you're doing is worthwhile. And I was just one day kind of thinking about it. I have all my indie friends that I really don't know, but I consider them like I know people say, well, have you met them? No, I have friends that I will probably never meet, but they're my friends. I just got brought into this world, and I just want to say, how did all these people stay motivated? And how do you keep going? And how do you keep your inspiration and not quit? I mean, because there's so many reasons to quit.
Yeah.
But then there's so many reasons to keep going. So the panel was amazing.
For those of you who don't know Marnie is the world's biggest Judi Dench fan. Her books are dedicated to Judi Dench. We tried to find a film that was along the indie genre with Judi Dench, and I think we found it. Would you agree, Marnie?
I would. It's a great film. So, and being indie is a bonus, since we're going to talk about it.
It's called Iris. It came out in 2002. It got redistributed by Miramax at some point, but really it was a film that was financed through a British film company, and then BBC helped finish the movie. But more importantly, what we discovered about this movie, at least I did, because I had never seen it until we decided to watch it and talk about it, was that this movie is not only an indie movie in itself, but it's about an indie artist. Iris Murdoch, who is, for all extents and purposes, was an indie author. She was published under a very, very small press for most of her life. So let's talk about Iris, and we'll start with the easy thing, which is Judi Dench's performance.
Her range, anything she's in, she just is the actress that it's not Judi Dench there. She was Iris.
And if you go and check out the actual Iris Murdoch videos, you'll look at it, and if you saw this movie, you'll see how uncanny she inhabits this woman. She looks exactly like her, talks exactly like her, has the same little mannerisms. Iris had like these little tics and stuff, and she captured that so brilliantly, and on top of all that, you have Kate Winslet. So this movie is a dual perspective movie in terms of it's Iris. It's all about Iris and her relationship with her husband. And then they both tend to flash back because it's really about them writing their memoir. And so they, in terms of that, they flash back to the time when they remember.
It was really great to see the early version, then transform into the same. You felt like you aged with these characters. Sometimes you'll watch a movie where they flash to the future and you don't see that connection. They together, like the four of them, they're amazing actors all together. I mean, it was a really great movie. It's a little bit slow at first, but by the time you really got into it, I was sad that it ended.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I wanted to watch more of it.
Yeah, I agree with you. It really took a while to pick up. And it also, I thought, to be fair, was very disorienting at the beginning, and I don't know if the filmmaker was making a statement because of the subject matter that he was dealing with, and kind of because we really discover that we're inside the heads of these two, of Iris and her husband during the course of the movie, so I don't know if that was intentional at the beginning to kind of make it a little disorienting and disjointed, because it didn't flow like it did toward the middle and the end, I thought, and that slowed it down completely. I thought it was really hard to get through the first 35 minutes of this movie.
But as I watched it and I thought back, it was like I needed that part anyway.
Yeah.
It was that building that you need, that maybe it's not your favorite part, but
yeah, it made a lot of sense when you got to the end. It made a lot more sense, and that's the cool magic of this movie. Because a lot of movies, if they derail, they never recover.
Right.
And I thought this movie did that, and I think also the subject matter in which it was dealing with. There's a poignant scene for me. The turning point for me when it kind of gets back on track is the scene where she walks off. There's a scene where she walks off and she's walking down the highway completely lost and disoriented, but she's at the same time remembering stuff of her past during that, and it's kind of all coming together at that point.
Great movie for, especially if you know anyone that has gone through that with dementia, or family members, helping someone with Alzheimer's. You've seen bits of that.
There's a couple that touched on the subject recently as well. But I felt like, unlike those movies, this movie was really about their relationship, and it was really, they engaged you through, doing those flashbacks instead of kind of discarding them and kind of treating this like this is an Alzheimer essay,
Right.
And I think a lot of those movies, that's where they fail. That's when they start to really fail, is when they become that, and this movie doesn't do that. It stays within its narrative, and I think that was really, really important.
Yeah, I mean, she was suffering with the disease, but that wasn't the storyline. That was just the catalyst to getting you to the end.
Past the first 30 minutes, I promise you, it will pick up.
I recommend everybody go out and watch it.
There you go. I hope you do add another movie to your watch list. Iris is well worth it. And it's kind of interesting to, if you're like me and you watch these movies and then you get kind of interested in the person. Iris Murdoch is somebody who's very interesting, as is her husband, John Bailey. We didn't talk a lot about John, but John is the whole reason we know about Iris. John's writing is amazing too. So they're two artists that you definitely worth the time to check out. And it was great doing that with Marnie, having a Judi Dench movie that is kind of obscure and follows, what we are, indie artists. It's kind of neat to see that everybody has a little bit of that in them. And Marnie, it was a great opportunity to talk to her and talk about this panel that we did, which we do every month, everybody. So one Saturday a month, we get together and do a live panel. Our next one is October 22nd at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Pacific. That is a panel about film and making films. So you definitely want to check that out. That'll be, again, Saturday, October 22nd. That's our next live panel. We will have this segment that you just saw every month with Mr. Jason Greensides doing the indie film reviews. He's an author, but he's also been a filmmaker in his life, so he has great insight into that world. So it's going to be a really good. Now we get to talk to the awesome Sarah Bates. And Sarah's someone who found a path, worked on a skill set all along that path, mastered that skill set, and continued down that path for some time. But it just goes to show you that no matter what path you're on, no matter how long you've been on it, and how straight it might become, there's always going to be an opportunity where there's a path that veers off, or there's something that is intriguing along that pathway that just has your name on it, that just calls out to you. And for Sarah, that was fiction. Sarah had been writing ad copy after ad copy. She'd been working in advertising and marketing for so long. She was so good at it. She was the top of her field. She was someone who became very important in the advertising world, so much so that corporations were coming to her, asking her to hone their message. Corporations like Avis. She worked for Avis for a very long time and helped develop some of the marketing strategies and advertising strategies that you see now that are still in place. But for Sarah, that wasn't the fulfillment. The path she veered off into really, she felt like, was a calling to her. I want to start, Sarah, with your journey because you have an incredible story, and to where you got to, how did your journey begin where you got to be a published author?
Okay, that's a good question because it's a long journey, and I won't tell you all of it. I will tell you the interesting parts. I spent over 20 years in advertising, working for big advertising agencies. I first became a production manager. And through that, I was able to talk to and meet lots and lots of terrific creative people in the world of advertising. Artists, copywriters, creative directors, and through osmosis, I think, I learned a lot from them. However, I'd always been writing. And when I married my husband, he was a creative director at an ad agency and ultimately formed his own company. And occasionally I would freelance for him. I didn't get paid, but I freelanced for him because I was still working for somebody else. Mm-hmm. And I remember the first time he said, you know, I think I'm going to enter one of the ads we did together and see if it wins anything. And it did. And I was, oh my gosh, my words. And I got to thinking, I wonder if I can make money with those words. Well, I continued on in advertising because I was by then doing pretty well, and the salaries were nice, and I got to dress up every day, and I was an important person. People came to me and said, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? Well, ultimately, I burned out, and I went to work on the client side, working as a marketing director for Avis Rent-A-Car. And wow, I sympathize with our Democratic candidate today, because hitting that glass ceiling in the world of automobile rentals was a hard bump on the head, I'll tell you. I was the only woman in management. Well, that was interesting because they let me do a lot of things, and I think it was because they didn't really know how to deal with me. Here's a woman with opinions. Here's a woman who actually has marketing smarts coming in to this huge company who has some ideas. And they didn't know what to do with me, so I just did what I wanted to do. And during that time, I wrote their company newsletter. I wrote their television commercials. I wrote their radio commercials, all because I had learned to do it when I worked in advertising. Not because I was paid for it then, but because I was learning how to do it. It came natural. Yeah. And I got a job for a book packager, and worked as a contract writer. And while I was doing that, one of the contract writers' projects was a series of booklets that had a fictional component in it. I had never written fiction. Everything had been advertising and nonfiction up until this point. So I wrote these 500 words was a snap when you come from advertising. You know how to write to fill a space. You know how to write to a word count. So I thought, fiction, I get to make up stuff? Ooh. And so I did. And I was so taken by that I thought, you know what? I've been writing now for a long time. I can write fiction.
Give my audience an idea of one trick of the trade that they can apply right away that doesn't take a whole lot of effort, but really is something that most people don't think about.
Joe, I'll tell you, I'm on a few newsletters that come into my inbox constantly, and I'm so surprised at how many people don't know what genre they are writing, and that is key to selling.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have to know who your end user is. And fan fiction, when it applies to romance or thrillers or mysteries, if you're writing something quasi, then if you really want to sell a book, you better start segueing into that genre in some way with your story, so that when your reader picks the book up, they'll say, oh, I know what this is. This is my genre that I love.
You know marketing very well. You know how to market. What was the most surprising thing to you that shocked you marketing to the publishing world that you weren't expecting?
It's one thing to write the book. It's another thing to get an agent interested in what you wrote. And that was the toughest part. And every author who's gone through the synopsis and the queries will say, oh my God, writing the book was much easier. And it is. I think that's really important, because that's your first impression. And you know that thing about you never have a second chance to make a first impression. Right. That's your first impression. And I am not great at doing that. I have to write them, have my writers group look at them, and still my book gets overlooked. I think that's really a critical part of the process. The other one that sort of bookends that is that even though you've written for the right genre and you've queried the agents and you've got your synopsis and your query is as best it can be, if you send it to an agent who doesn't think he or she can sell your book to a publisher, you're back dead in the water.
Yeah.
Being realistic, I think, is important with marketing.
You have a background in public speaking, at least from what I've read and seen. And, so where does one begin to build confidence in that? And what's a good starting point for somebody who wants to kind of build their confidence and get into more of what I do, vlogging and that nature? Well,
the fastest way is to join Toastmasters. Really, it is, because it's structured, and you're with colleagues, peers, who have gone through the same thing you're going through. Regardless of what other people are doing, you're gaining the skills to be able to speak contemporaneously and prepare.
How much time do you now spend on social media marketing your work?
I think I probably spend within 7 days, I spend at least 3, sometimes 4, depending on where I am in the marketing cycle. So I think social media is interesting from the point of view that you're reaching a lot of people you couldn't reach before.
Yeah.
I think there's so much of it now that it becomes kind of, it's confusing to many people. One of my writing colleagues, she doesn't even have a Facebook account, and she's 2/3 finished with her book. I hope that she's able to publish it traditionally, because she's going to have to get up to speed with everything at a gallop.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't understand how everything works. And in traditional publishing, the publishers do a lot of that work for you, but they expect you to give, if they give 50%, they expect you to give 50% and more, and you have to do it.
For someone who's starting a memoir or doing a nonfiction book, what's the best advice you could give them?
Well, for a memoir, pick a pivotal time in your recollection and write it about that. Don't start with, I was born on April 21st, 1922. And don't do that. Just pick that time that is the most memorable to you, and write about that short time frame and treat it as if it were fiction. There's a colleague in my group who is writing his memoir now, and he's written a couple of high adventure romances. Now that's fiction, and they've been really interesting, and we've kind of coached him through dialogue and pacing and things. So he starts writing this memoir about himself, and we're all leaning forward. What? You did that? Oh my God. And he said, what? You're really interested in this? Yes. And because it has a ring of truth about it and honesty, but he picked a time frame where he had just graduated from UCLA as a petroleum engineer, couldn't get a job, took a job traveling to the Middle East in the 1950s. And most of us in the group remember the 1950s, and we think, oh my God, that's so exciting and so interesting. And so he got in touch with me the other day, and he says, well, how far are you on your new book? And we chatted about that. He says, well, I'm about 38,000 words. I think I'm done. And he probably is, because his memoir is not going to take him on and on and on and on. It's just that time. So pick a time that's very fascinating to you. Write about that time and write it as if it were fiction, because most of the people that you're writing about in your memoir either are never going to see it or they're dead. And that means they'll never see it either. But be very careful about names. And I mean, there's conventions for memoirs as well. Nonfiction, my best advice is to learn as much as you possibly can about the kind of nonfiction you want to write, and then go do it.
What does the term indie mean to you?
Indie to me means a lot of things, because I think I'm an independent thinker. And I'm independent in that nothing gets in my way. I find out how to get it done. Nothing deters me. So that's a very independent and strong, independent, stubborn streak. And if I have done everything I can to get people to read my books and follow up by my own creed, which is consistent, persistent, relentless, then I'm making my way as an independent person. And I am absolutely thrilled that there is a way for the independent person to have a voice. Absolutely thrilled. I have something on my bulletin board I just looked at. F. Scott Fitzgerald said, write from the mood. So I have to stay in the mood of the book, in the point of view of the character, because if I don't, it's just garbage.
It's so cool to talk to people about their journeys, because every journey is unique. Every journey has a different, we may walk the same paths, but we don't walk them the same. And that's what's really cool about listening to people talk about their journeys, because it's just one of those unique experiences as humans that we revel in and enjoy, and really get inspired and really learn a lot about ourselves and about each other. And I think the more we can do that, the better our society will be. Thank you to Sarah Bates for putting a nice cherry on top of our Journeys discussion this episode. And thank you for watching. As always, GoIndieNow.com is a great place to go and get information about what we're doing. We've got our coffee break show, which is weekly. We have our monthly live panel discussion shows, and October, which is the next one, is going to be all about filmmaking. I'm super excited about that. I hope that you all tuned in for that. And like I said last month, one of the cool things that we're doing now is we're presenting short films along with the credits. And you may recall a gentleman by the name of Daniel Harding, who was part of episode 3 of our show. And Daniel runs 23 and a half films, and he just is a spitfire making all these short films. But I always had a sentimental favorite, and I asked him if it would be okay if we showed the entire film during these credits. And he said yes. So this is my favorite of all the films that he's done, but I can tell you they're all great, and you should definitely go check out all his films. His links are still up on our website. Everybody, just remember, it's always time to go indie now.
Hello?
Hi, I'm Natalie.
I'm Charles. I just had the oddest feeling.
Me too, actually. Do I know you?
I don't think so. Do I look familiar?
Not really. Where do you work?
At a solicitor's. You?
Sports bar in town. Do you go there?
No. Not my sort of place. Too much sport.
Part of the charm, I guess.
I'm sorry, I don't normally do this.
What are you doing exactly?
Being so forward.
Is this you being forward?
I guess so.
So what do you do at the solicitors?
Oh, I handle divorce cases.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually quite interesting work. It's not as dull as it sounds. I can't go into much detail. Oh, you smoke?
It's been known. Sorry.
So, are you a manager at the sports bar?
Nah,
Do you want to be?
not really. I prefer to spend my time and energy making things.
In what sense?
I'm a sculptor.
Much money in sculpting?
Not really. I tend to use items that I've found so my pieces don't cost as much to make.
Well, I'm meant to be heading this way, so...
And I'm that way. Should I give you my number?
Sure. And you were...
Natalie.
Natalie. Shall we do something on Saturday evening?
Yeah, if you're free.
I am between 7 and 9:45 p.m.
Terrific.
I'll text you my address. You can pick me up.
I don't drive.
Oh, okay. I guess I'll drive then. I like Italian food, but make sure you pick a good Italian and wear something more appropriate.
Sure.
Bye then.
Bye.
Oh well, you can't win them all. Nice try though.
Oh, that was a disaster.
You just need some practice.
How long do you think they'll be together for?
I'd say at least 10 years or so. Mortgage, kids, joint bank account. Hey, don't get upset. Not everyone gets a winner. At least he's a solicitor. So the divorce should be stress-free.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Come on,